What if the reason you're still confused about your future has nothing to do with intelligence, discipline, or opportunity? What if you've been asking the wrong question your entire life? Not, what career should I choose? But, what was I built for? Because those are two completely different questions. One creates a paycheck, the other creates a life. Most people spend years searching for success, yet very few ever discover the thing that makes them irreplaceable. And the strange part? The answer is usually hiding in plain sight, so obvious, so natural, so familiar, that they never recognize it. Tonight, we're going to talk about the hidden ability that may already be shaping your life without you even realizing it. And by the end of this video, you might finally understand why some people seem born for what they do, while others spend decades feeling lost. Imagine two men. The first follows the safest path possible. He studies what everyone recommends, chooses the career everyone respects, makes decisions based on security, approval, and predictability. Everything looks right from the outside, but every morning feels heavier than the last. The second man takes a different route. He follows something he cannot fully explain. A strange pull, a recurring obsession, a skill that feels effortless. The path is harder, riskier, slower. But years later, he becomes someone nobody can replace. Why? Because one man built a life around expectations, the other built a life around nature, and nature always wins. The modern world has created a problem no generation before us experienced. Too many choices, too many opinions, too many voices competing for your attention. Open social media. One person tells you to become a programmer. Another says start a business. Another says become a creator. Another says learn AI. Another says invest. Another says travel. Another says quit your job. Everyone sounds certain. So naturally, you become confused. Because when every road looks important, it's difficult to know which one is yours. And that's where most people get trapped. Not in failure, in uncertainty. The dangerous thing about uncertainty is that it slowly disconnects you from yourself. You stop asking what you want and start asking what everybody else wants from you. Parents have expectations, friends have opinions, society has standards, the internet has trends, and eventually you become so busy listening outward that you lose the ability to hear inward. This is where people abandon their gifts, not because they lack talent, but because they never learned how to recognize it. Here's something nobody tells you. Your greatest strength rarely feels impressive to you. Read that again. Your greatest strength rarely feels impressive to you. Why? Because you've had it your entire life. Imagine a man with exceptional vision. He assumes everyone sees what he sees. How could he know it's unusual? It's normal to him. The same thing happens with talent. The thing that feels effortless may be the exact thing that makes you extraordinary. And that's why so many people overlook it. They think, it can't be my gift. It's too easy. It's nothing special. Meanwhile, other people struggle to do what comes naturally to them. Think about the people around you. Some instantly understand emotions. Some naturally organize chaos. Some can explain complicated ideas simply. Some inspire confidence. Some create beauty. Some solve problems. Some notice patterns nobody else sees. Different gifts, different wiring, different value. Yet society often treats everyone as if they should follow the same formula, the same path, the same definition of success. And that's where frustration begins. Because deep down, you already know when you're living against your nature. You feel it. every day. Like wearing shoes that don't fit. You can still walk, but every step costs energy. And eventually, what should feel meaningful becomes exhausting. Not because you're weak, because you're misaligned. Here's a question. Have you ever met someone who seemed completely alive while working? Not excited, not motivated, alive. Hours pass, and they barely notice. Challenges energize them. Learning feels enjoyable. Progress feels natural. The work becomes an extension of who they are. Most people look at those individuals and think they got lucky. But often, they simply discovered something aligned with their nature. The tragedy is that many people never experience this because they're searching for rewards instead of signals. Money, status, recognition, approval. None of those things can tell you who you are. Only your patterns can, and your patterns leave clues everywhere. Let's travel backward, back before the expectations, before the pressure, before the career anxiety, back to childhood. What fascinated you? What absorbed your attention? What could you do for hours? What problems did you naturally enjoy solving? What role did you play around others? The observer, the leader, the creator, the entertainer, the problem solver. These questions matter because children often reveal what adults later suppress. The original blueprint is usually there long before society gets involved. Now here's where things become uncomfortable, because your gift is often hidden beside your pain, and most people avoid pain. Now here's where things become uncomfortable, because your gift is often hidden beside your pain, and most people avoid pain. Maybe you grew up feeling misunderstood, so you learned to understand people deeply. Maybe you felt powerless, so you became obsessed with strength. Maybe you struggled socially, so you became an exceptional observer. Maybe you felt lost, so you developed a desire to guide others. Notice the pattern. The wound and the gift often grow from the same soil, which means if you want to discover your potential, you may need to revisit the parts of yourself you've spent years hiding. Most people run away from their insecurities, but insecurities contain information, powerful information. The things you overthink, the things you notice, the experiences that shaped you, the struggles that changed you. They all leave fingerprints, and those fingerprints often point toward your purpose. Here's a strange truth. The world doesn't reward people for being identical. It rewards people for being useful in a unique way. Think about it. Nobody remembers the 10th copy. They remember the original. The person who brings something different, a different perspective, a different energy, a different solution, a different experience. And that uniqueness usually comes from embracing what makes you different instead of hiding it. The problem is that being different feels dangerous. Human beings crave belonging, approval, acceptance, so we learn to blend in, to become predictable, safe, normal. But normal rarely creates fulfillment, because fulfillment requires expression, and expression requires courage. Let's talk about fear, the biggest dream killer in existence. Not failure, fear. Failure is temporary. Fear can last a lifetime. Because fear doesn't stop you once. Fear stops you every day. It whispers, wait, delay, play it safe. Maybe next year, maybe when you're ready, maybe when conditions are perfect. And before you know it, a decade disappears. The frightening part is that fear often sounds logical. It sounds responsible, mature, practical, reasonable. But sometimes the most expensive decision you can make is choosing comfort over growth. Because comfort feels good today, regret feels terrible forever. Imagine reaching the end of your life, looking back, seeing all the moments where you ignored your instincts, ignored your curiosity, ignored your gifts, ignored your potential. What hurts more, failing while trying, or wondering what might have happened? Most people already know the answer. That's why regret is so powerful. Regret isn't pain from failure. It's pain from abandonment. Abandoning yourself. Abandoning what could have been, and carrying that weight for years. Now let's make this practical. How do you actually discover your gift? Step 1. Study your energy, not your goals. Your energy. What activities make you lose track of time? What conversations energize you? What topics pull your attention naturally? What problems do you enjoy solving? Pay attention. Energy leaves clues. Step 2. Ask people. Seriously, ask them. What do I do well? What makes me different? Why do people come to me? What value do I create? You may be surprised how often the same answers appear. Patterns matter. Patterns reveal truth. Step 3. Examine your struggles, not to suffer, to learn. What challenges shaped you? What lessons did they teach? What strengths emerged because of them? Sometimes your greatest contribution to the world grows directly from your hardest experiences. Step 4. Experiment. Because clarity comes from action, not thinking, not planning, not imagining. Action. Too many people try to discover themselves without doing anything. That's impossible. You learn who you are by interacting with reality, trying, failing, adjusting, growing. Movement creates clarity. Stillness creates confusion. Here's something important. Your gift doesn't need to be revolutionary. It doesn't need to change the world. It only needs to be genuinely yours. Because authenticity carries power. People can feel it. They can feel when someone is forcing something, and they can feel when someone is operating from their nature. One creates friction, the other creates trust. The people who dominate their field often share one thing: alignment. Not perfection, alignment. They found a way to combine what they love, what they're naturally good at, and what creates value for others. That's the sweet spot. That's where momentum begins. That's where fulfillment grows. That's where extraordinary lives are built. Your talent feels ordinary because you've lived with it forever. The life you want begins where fear loses control. So tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself one question. Not what the world wants from you. Not what your friends expect. Not what society rewards. Ask yourself, what comes naturally to me that I've been overlooking? Sit with that question. Write your answers. Look for patterns. Look for clues. Look for the version of yourself that has been trying to get your attention for years. Because maybe, just maybe, the thing you've been searching for isn't somewhere out there. Maybe it's been inside you the entire time, waiting, patiently, quietly, for you to finally notice. And when you do, your future stops feeling like a mystery and starts feeling like a direction. If this video helped you see yourself differently, subscribe to Daily Deep Psychology. Because the deepest transformations don't happen when you become someone new. They happen when you uncover who you were always meant to be.